In my 2+ decades of writing and recording music, including 1,000-ish tracks for film and TV, my skills have had to go wide. I have no regrets, but there are a handful of skills that I wish I would have learned earlier, including a few that might surprise you. Number 1, learn the guitar neck. Let's get a guitar. Oh, let's go with the old Jazz Master. I made a video about this particular guitar. Cut that back a little bit. Squire. I learned the cowboy chords. Nothing wrong with that, but I memorized where my fingers go, and that's what guitar players tend to do in the beginning, is we put our fingers where it says to put them. And that's great, but you're not really learning your way around the neck. And that served me well, but that's not music, that's memorization. For the past year, I've been focusing on my triads, learning how to play a G everywhere on the neck. So I've got that I memorized when I was 12, and then I've got this right here, right here, and then repeats again, right? I don't have time to talk about everything you need to know, but the caged system was somewhat of a game changer for me. C-A-G-E-D. I'll show some videos and link to a few that really helped me make sense of the neck. Now, still got a ways to go, but I spent a lot more time up here. Another key, this pinky right here. Big player. Putting my pinky right there and playing that particular chord, which you can use all up and down the neck. I could not do anything with that pinky 6 months ago. I'm still a little slow getting it to the right spot, but I don't make those faces when I play. Let's put that up. The second thing is a skill, but it's really a strong recommendation to buy an expensive piece of gear. I try not to do much of that. Everything changed when I bought a decent piano. You don't have to pay a lot of money for a decent piano. There are deals out there. A lot of piano scams on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Somebody's grandma is always dying, and they want to give the piano to you for free, but all you have to do is pay for shipping. The Kawai back there, I got for $3,500. About 7 or 8 years ago. It's a lot of money. Next to my acoustic guitar, actually, my acoustic guitar is probably worth more now than that, but I'd never paid that much for any kind of instrument ever. And I've had cheap pianos that were the kind that you pick up on the side of the road. And one of them was beautiful. It looked amazing, but it would not stay in tune. I had the guy come tune it, and he was like, I show up all the time to tune pianos, and it's not even possible because they typically last around 100 years, and after that, the tuning pegs get loose, and I love that old vibey sound. It's really cool, out of tune, whatever, but having a decent playing piano that I can sit down and record, but also just spend a lot of time writing, completely changed. I can learn very few things sitting right here in this spot because of the internet right in front of me.
Do you think we're headed for a recession?
But I can sit there for hours and play without distraction, so buy yourself a decent piano or save the money for one. Number 3, I got to be careful talking with authority on this because I'm still terrible at this, but learn to read music, at least at a basic level. Now, some of you who watch this channel are like, duh, I learned how to do that in the 3rd grade. Well, I kind of did too, but I didn't practice it for years. People are always going to ask, are you classically trained? And I say, no, man, I play by ear. No, I memorized chords on my guitar, right? I remember times early on as an engineer, I got gigs and I was able to work with people outside of the play-by-ear crowd because I could read the notes. And I imagine that not being proficient and that not being second nature to me has cost me gigs that I didn't even know I had the opportunity to get. Number 4, we're staying in the skills, staying with the same theme. Learn the drums. And if you don't have the space, get some electronic drums. There's a guy on YouTube I've been watching who's making these great tracks, and when he does drums, he turns over to his little Roland kit, and he's getting sounds from the computer, and it's awesome. I love finger drumming. You've seen me do it on my Somerville Sounds ads for soft drums. If you're not familiar, Somerville Sounds is a company that I own, where we make drums and pianos and a fun little synth thing. And then most recently, Woven Violin, which is a textural string library. Link in description. But I avoided learning the drums for the longest time, and drums are an integral part to the music that I make. My friend Joel played the drums, so I just helped mic them, and he did that. And that worked great for a number of years, but when I got into writing my own music and arranging my own music, not having a firm grasp of how drums work and how they're played Well, it was definitely a problem. You don't have to be technically proficient to write good drum tracks. There are tricks inside the box where you can line things up and make stuff sound good, but knowing when to go to the hi-hat, when to go to the ride, how to play the toms, and all the other drum stuff. You learn the difference between different types of shells, different sizes of shells, cymbals, the difference between single ply and double ply drum heads. Not sure if you quizzed me, I would get that one on a hearing test, but I'm getting better. All right, let's move on to gear, specifically plugins. Number 5, stop buying plugins. Now, I just told you to buy mine, which hopefully you clicked away and did that before you got to this part. Truthfully, I'm not saying don't buy plugins. You need them. We work in the box mostly. There are different types of plugins, right? Some that surgically work on your music, EQs, get into the very, very tiny details. Then there are the creative plugins and virtual instruments. Just be thoughtful in the way that you go about buying them. The best thing we've got going for us is that the DAWs are all fighting for your attention. They all want you to choose them. And so they include great instruments. Even Pro Tools has great instruments that come with it now. And certainly on the EQ, compression, reverb front, everything you need to certainly get started. When I look back on my years of purchasing, I bet I use 20%. It's probably less than that. I mean, I find the things that I like and I use them over and over again. I think it's better than having a large amount to choose from because you know exactly what you're going to get. Like I use Echo Boy by Sound Toys every single day, it seems like, because I know I can get the delay sounds that I want, and I know how to manipulate the controls inside it to make them sound wider. It just becomes natural to me. Now, there are points where I think, well, I don't need to be so reliant on this one sound, but when it comes to a filtered delay, all delays kind of do the same thing. There will always be new innovations. My friend Owen made this really cool delay plugin that I'll link to that it makes you think about delays in a different creative way. Always kind of self-analyze, how much do you think that plugin that you're about to buy is going to change the music that you make? And if you're super excited that it's going to provide this big change, you're probably going to be disappointed. But if you want to think about your long-term growth as a music maker, producer, engineer, embracing the difficulties that come from not getting what you want with stock plugins is the best way to learn because you end up adding things to those plugins to get that saturation or whatever that you think is missing from that EQ. I'm looking at my notes. Number 6 was learn the gear you have, and I covered that in 5, so learn the gear you have. But to go a little deeper on that, you probably have gear that when you look at it, you know how to do part of what it can do, but there might be some other controls that do something that you don't understand. The easy thing to do is to avoid that section. Sometimes manufacturers put too many bells and whistles in their plug-in or gear so that you'll think it's worth more, but most of the time it's there for a reason. So many times I finally watch a video about that thing and I'm like, oh, it can do that? Learn your gear. Number 7, keyboard shortcuts. I've tried all the gadgets, got the Stream Deck. Everything you need is right here on your keyboard. I have my Pro Tools shortcuts. They are locked in my brain for 25 years. However, I know there are plenty that I've just never learned. I also have Resolve shortcuts. Finally, I have pushed out the Premiere Pro shortcuts from my brain. Now, basically, I just have the 2 programs, my video editing software and Pro Tools, that I know how to get around in. When I see people clicking around, I'm just like, come on, man, learn it. Every click moves us more towards insanity. And it definitely moves me more towards the end of my day, or at least the end of my brain power for that day. So if I can resourcefully limit the amount of clicks that I make with my mouse and time looking for things, I can't prove it, but it probably adds 30, 45 minutes to my productivity in a day. Number 8, very important. And I don't know if I would pass a test on all the technical aspects of how this works, but you need to understand phase and polarity. The best way to understand whether or not something is in phase or not is to mic up a drum kit. The quick explanation, you have microphones and you have a source. And whenever microphones are picking up the same source and they're different distances from one another, but they're still close, it can cause interaction with the waveforms. And suddenly where you think you should have a lot of low end in that kick, it's not there at all. There are ways to fix it in the DAW, but the best way to fix it is in the room. And you can only learn this from experience. There are lots of things that you can learn about making music on the computer, watching YouTube videos. You cannot learn about microphone technique. Well, I mean, you kind of learn, but you can't really learn what happens in the speakers when you take a microphone and you move it around in front of an instrument. You got to get down there and do it. And you really got to get your ears down there first and then start the process. That was one of those moments where I thought, okay, maybe I could be an okay engineer now that I'm not just nodding my head when someone says, can you tell if that's in phase? I'm like, oh yeah, that's out of phase. Number 9, the quickest way to improve your skills is to play live. It's like a cheat code for getting better. I've been fortunate through the years to have opportunities to play live. You can hack your way through anything in a DAW. Trust me, I have done it and I'll continue to do it. But when you play live, you cannot fake it. There is no chat GPT, unfortunately, to get us from the intro to the outro of a song. I've learned that if I'm sitting in this chair and I can play something on my guitar, that when I go play live, I'm going to get about 75% of that execution. So you learn how to scale it back. Like, what do I actually know how to do? You know, I hone my chops as a rhythm acoustic guitar player, and because of that, I have good rhythm in the studio. When it comes to electric guitar, there might be 10 tracks on the record. You got to figure out how to take those rhythm and lead parts and put them into something that makes sense. You learn problem solving because everything goes wrong. You learn how to play with other instruments and you get that interaction real time. Whenever I learn a new instrument, I try to work it in live. I made a video about that with my pedal steel, which I haven't played much since. Unfortunate. Get out in front of people, even if it's your local coffee shop and nobody's paying attention. It will make you better. And number 10, final, the hardest thing for me to learn is that I am a businessman. You are a businessman or businesswoman. If you plan on making a career of music, you have got to understand that you have to sell yourself. And it sounds kind of icky. It's not what you want to do. Hopefully you're good enough that everybody just does all that for you. But that's not been my experience personally, and every single person that I know in this business has learned how to take care of their business. I was terrible at this at the beginning, and begrudgingly I have learned how to do a few things over the years, and now it's finally starting to make a little bit more sense. But for every couple videos you watch about how to program drums, you need to watch videos about how to run a business. Thankfully, there's a lot of information out there right now, and we have no excuse for anything that we want to learn how to do at this point. The information is out there for us to learn. But I am telling you right now that if you're not thinking about accounting, if you're not thinking about all the stuff with the IRS, and if you're not thinking about how you're going to make money in the future, I would always get laser focused on what I was doing during the moment and just neglect 6 months down the line, and 6 months down the line always seem to come. If you don't get anything else from this video, please start thinking about what you do as a business. And it doesn't have to interfere with the art. It's the only way you're going to have a chance as an artist moving forward. Okay, I had a few extras here. Bass players get gigs. Learn to play the bass. Trust me. Develop your taste. Your taste. Like, what do you like? And then go all into that. Because in today's world, it's easier than ever for people with similar tastes to find you. And those are the people that you are going to develop long-term business and friendships with. Trust your instincts, trust the process. Less is more. And automation, that's really, learn how to automate things. Tell me what you wish you would have learned earlier. And if you like this video, go watch this. Talk soon.